What's up, people? I am back for another video. Today we are not reviewing, but we're going to be talking about. This is going to be one of the few, because those the state of videos are usually a bit more. I'll just keep it real, kind of negative. But this is actually going to be one where it's going to be a bit more on the positive side. Because overall, we're going to be talking about the John Wick franchise, and I think largely these movies have all been good. Even Ballerina as a spinoff, the only really bad thing in the John Wick first, quote unquote, is honestly Continental. That was I guess we could start off with that. Continental was so fucking bad. If you missed it, you're lucky. Like Mel Gibson is like the only good thing in that movie. Like legit, it is the only good. He's the only good thing in that movie because or in that show because everything else was just terrible. Not good characters. I didn't really need to see a young Winston or a young Sharon. I think it should have just been about various different fucking assassins, and then maybe if you wanted to have that one female cop character, but it should have been just kind of more almost um not even necessarily anthology, but just it should have been about random characters. You could have had it been about multiple different characters, not including Winston. I didn't need a Winston origin. I didn't need to see a young Winston or a young Sharon, to be honest. I was good on that. Like, I think this franchise needs to acknowledge we come to see John Wick, not necessarily the world. And I think they have it's like I liked Ballerina, but Ballerina should not have been a theatrical release. I think that's something you could have probably put on streaming, or you make that a series, like a mini series even, because they need to realize we come to these movies to see Keanu Reeves navigate the world, not necessarily the world itself. I think they over like compensated and think we wanted to see the actual world. Like series, like on paper, I don't mind because series you put that on streaming. You don't have to worry about box office and all that. At most, you can have to worry about like viewership and stuff. But I think like a John Wick, like a Continental series, on paper, I think that show could work if you had focused on like different assassins and have it be set in like the 70s, and maybe each season is a different Continental. Like you could have did the normal New York Continental for season 1. Season 2 could have been the Italy Continental, and then season 3 you could have the Japanese Continental. Like you really could have focused on different Continentals. So in a way, kind of anthology, where each season it's about the Continental, and you could have even added in different times, like maybe the New York one you could have did in like the 80s, like you did the initial season, but you did that right. And then season 2 you do the Italian Continental, and maybe you set that one in like the 90s, or you could even keep it in the 80s, and then the Japanese Continental, maybe you do that one in the 90s or the 2000s. Like you could have did something where you could have focused on different characters each season, and I think that's what they should have done. And because I think on paper that show could have worked, and I really feel like even the Ballerina, that should have been a show or a movie, or if you're gonna do it as a movie, you should have just did it as a streaming movie. Because what hurt it was releasing it theatrically. I just don't think there's enough of an audience. Because people, when they want to see this quote unquote world theatrically, it's Keanu Reeves navigating the world, not seeing just random girl navigate the world. At least theatrically, and I like the movie, but I think people need to accept that. And this is the only kind of negative point I'm gonna bring up: is this isn't a world theatrically people want to see without Keanu Reeves. And yeah, Keanu Reeves was in Ballerina, but they want to see him be the focus and actually navigating the world, not the world itself. If you want to expand on the world, TV series or stuff on streaming is the way. Even a video game, even. would be the way to go. Not doing a fucking movie. Because as much as I like Donnie Yen, I'm kind of worried that Kane movie's not going to do well because maybe it might do well like in China or somewhere like that in Asia because of Donnie Yen, but I don't know, does it do well in America because I think a lot of us want to see it theatrically, only want to see Keanu Reeves be the lead, and I think that's just the truth that people need to acknowledge. Like, I think a lot of people would not mind the spin-offs if they were not theatrical. If they were like all on streaming or something like that, then cool. Because if you want to expand the John Wick universe, that's the way to go for like to do it. But doing it theatrically is just risky because we want to see Keanu Reeves. We started with Keanu Reeves in the movies, and I think a lot of people want to see Keanu Reeves continue in the movies. Trying to make it about like anything else, I think people just the interest isn't there. But like, I guess kind of we'll round about back to this point. We'll kind of start off with the first John Wick. The first John Wick, I unfortunately did not see in theaters. I didn't see it until I think close to the second one. It might have been like I think like 2016, so it would have been a year before John Wick 2. And I'm mad at myself for not seeing that first John Wick in theaters. Because it kind of, I think if I remember right, it came out like October or November. It was like later, 2014. And I remember seeing the trailer, but it just didn't interest me at the time, and I just didn't get around to it. But man, the fact that I didn't see it until 2 years later, I'm mad at myself because this is a movie I would have loved to have seen in theaters. The first John Wick was just simple. And it was an interesting take on a revenge story because they could have made it about him getting revenge for his wife's death or his daughter or his son or something, which usually you revenge, or, you know, father or parent even. No, they did something different. It was about a dog. But I think a lot of people do miss the point. Like, yeah, it is about the dog, but it's also the meaning of the dog. It's about the fact that that was his wife's last gift to him before she died. And also, I think it's about something else. This was John's chance at a normal life, and that was taken away from him. I always kind of saw it as that too. Like, they took his one chance to live a normal life. He wanted to be done with the assassin life and just live a normal life. But because of how bad of what these people did, he had to come back, and I think that's what makes the first one so good. And it's just the simplicity. The scene where the kid's father's explaining like the Baba Yaga is still one of the best scenes. And I love like when he's explaining like John Wick, you have the shot of John Wick breaking into the ground because that's where he had hit a lot of his weapons and his, you know, high table stuff. I love that shot, and I love Willem Dafoe. I even liked Adrienne Palicki. I liked her as the side character. Like, I think everything about the first John Wick was perfect. Because it wasn't a complicated movie. They kept it really simple. I love Keanu Reeves. It was like almost a resurgence for Keanu Reeves. At this point, he was kind of floundering a little bit. Like, he did Last Ronin, or not Last Ronin, 47 Ronin. Last Ronin's Ninja Turtles. 47 Ronin, which, good movie, but I don't think it made a lot of money. Because I think that was like a little bit like a year before this came out, because that was like 2013, and this was 2014. So I think it was kind of cool to see Keanu Reeves have a resurgence. And he's just an all-around cool guy, so to see him have a resurgence with something is really well done. And my first John Wick in theaters, now we're going to get to 2. 2 is probably the weakest one for me. Like, I think I have my issues with 3, but I think 3 is still slightly better. My issue with 2 is more the villain. I feel like the villain in 2 is just kind of just a guy he wanted John Wick to do a job for him, and he kind of fucked him over. And then John Wick wants revenge, because he also refused to do the job for him and join him. But I will always love John Wick 2, partially because it was my first John Wick in the theaters. Because that was actually the first one I actually got to. Because if I remember, this one came out like not long after my birthday. It was like February of 2017. So it was a couple of weeks after my birthday. Or like before my birthday or something like that, if I remember. So I remember seeing that one in theaters that day. And that was really good. So I still really like it. I just think of like rewatching it and going through the films again. This is about a year ago or 2 years ago. I think it was a little bit before I got into John, because John Wick 4 is about to come out. I think 2 is probably the weakest story-wise. I do think it has really good action, though. And I love the start, because this is the one that starts the whole chase for John. So I love that stuff, and I love the continuation of Winston and R.I.P. Lance Reddick. He was really good in this one. I felt like it was kind of cool to see him do more stuff in this. Just like I said, I think villain-wise is just a little weak. But I still really like John Wick 2. And like I said, this franchise has been very consistent. The first 4 movies, to me, are all good. They're all varying degrees. I think 3 is probably the third. Like, I would say 1, 4, then 3, and then this one probably. But this one's still really good. But John Wick 3, that was a great theater experience. Just because that third act in the actual action part of the third act is really good. I don't love Winston's sudden turn, and I do feel like it gets kind of unaddressed, kind of, outside of a quick line by John in 4. So that's why I feel like if you're going to have Winston turn on John, even if he had no choice, I really would have preferred a little bit of build-up to that. Because I feel like this one, kind of like 2, I feel like the bad guy was kind of weak. Because there was really no main bad guy. It was like a lot of just assassins, because the whole plot was everybody's after John now, right? So it was more about John trying to survive. So there wasn't like a singular bad guy like some of the other ones were. I will say, I do like how it expands the lore on like the high table and the different parts of the, even 2 does. I think that's the aspect of 2 and 3 I really do like, is how it expands the lore, but it still ties John into it. And I think, and I'm going to get back to that point, but that's why like a lot of the spin-offs don't work, is because while yes, we like the world, I think the whole point theatrically is we want to see Keanu Reeves, John Wick, navigate this world, not necessarily see the world itself as like the point in a bunch of spin-offs. So I think 2 and 3 do a good job with that. I think 3 has some really good action scenes. I love Halle Berry in the movie. I think that she's an example of a great kind of female character. She's, even during the action scenes, she struggles a bit. I like the use of the dogs. I thought that was really cool. I just think the only real issue I have with 3 is the way they handle Winston's turn a little bit. Like, I do wish, if you're gonna have him kind of turn on John, even if he had no choice, they should have maybe showed that a bit better than it just kind of abruptly happening, how they do it in 3. But 3 overall is still really good. Like, I feel like up until this point, the John Wick franchise has been pretty consistent. Like, 1 is the best one, but 2 and 3 were still pretty good. And then 4 is my second favorite in the franchise. Now getting to 4. That theater experience, that came out in 2023, and I really love that theater experience. I really felt like it was cool seeing that movie in the theater. The over top shot with him using the dragon's breath bullets was really well done. I thought they did a good job of everybody coming after him. And one of my favorite things about 4, that's why it's my second favorite, I like we actually have a really good villain. As much as the villain in the first one, it's more about what he does. Like, him and his boys kill the dog, so that's why we hate him. But I feel like we haven't really had a really good bad guy with a face that is like an opposing counter to John. And I felt like up until this point we hadn't had that. So to see Bill Skarsgård as the main bad guy in this was so well done. because it was kind of cool to see a villain that actually could counter John. Because, dude, he wasn't like a villain to counter John. He was just someone John had to kill. Because all he was just a guy who was basically on the run. He was hiding out in one of the Continentals because the whole rule is he can't kill people on Continental grounds. It's because John did that. He's excommunicado and all that. So, but he wasn't like an actual compelling villain. And like I said, 3, you didn't really have one. Because the whole point of 3 was because he was excommunicado. He was trying to protect himself from being targeted by multiple different assassins. So I felt like there wasn't an actual antagonist that was moving the plot like Bill Skarsgård in 3. Or in 4, sorry. And I really feel like Bill Skarsgård in 4 really led the plot. Like, he got the plot going. He was an actual antagonist that you wanted John to get, but he was also just so well done. Like, because I think Bill Skarsgård in general plays great villains, so I felt like in this, and it was just kind of cool to see a villain actually counter John. You know, that wasn't just like the high table or like random assassins that's trying to kill John. So you actually have a villain with a face that's propelling the plot forward. So, and I love how it ended. Like, I've said, if this was the last John Wick movie, I would have been fine. I would have been content if John Wick 4 would have been it. Because I know they're talking about doing a 5, but really quick on that, if they do a 5, this one needs to be it. Because I feel like we're gonna really risk getting repetitive. As much as I like some of the action in the sequels, and I do like that largely the sequels have been consistent, I don't know if we can go past 5 and it not feel weird and just feel like we're just trying to keep it going just to keep it going. Like, I feel like John Wick 5 should be the last one. Because I have a feeling, because I was already thinking this even before, because I didn't really think this was going to be the last one anyway. I figured John faked his death. They're going to make it seem like he died. Something's going to happen. The high table's going to find out he's really alive. And then they're going to come after him. And then I think that's going to be the last movie. I do think if you do that, you cannot kill John at this point. You already did the whole fake out death thing. And I think it would feel kind of cheap if you do the fake out death and then now we're going to actually do it. No. I think you gotta let John at this point ride off into the sunset, and that's the actual ending to the franchise. And I think that's the direction to go. But now going back to the whole spin-offs thing. As much as I like Ballerina, I thought Ballerina was fun. Anna de Armas was good. I thought, especially considering how often we get a lot of these Mary Sue type action movies where is this 20-pound chick barely is somehow able to beat up all these massive dudes. I like that this movie really made it a whole point, like, women and men are different, so women have to cheat and use their resources and use like their environment to their advantage. And I really like that the movie kind of highlighted that, and that was a theme throughout the entire film. But people don't want to acknowledge why it didn't do well. I like the movie, but the truth is, I think theatrically, people only want to see Keanu Reeves. They only want to see John Wick traveling this universe. Yes, he was in Ballerina, but they want to see him be like the lead navigating this universe, not necessarily see other characters in said universe. And I think they overestimated the importance of the universe theatrically. If you want to do a bunch of spin-offs and explore the world more, do some television shows, do it on streaming, because you don't have to worry about box office. And that's where I think you can also do more, and because with the shows you have more time, but you also don't have to worry about box office. And because the truth is, I think theatrically with John Wick, they only want to see Keanu Reeves navigate the universe, because that's what we followed for all these years. and trying to follow some random character we don't know because, well, it's a spin-off. Like, no, I don't think people want that. John Wick isn't Marvel or DC where you could have a bunch of spin-offs about other characters in different parts of the universe, because at the end of the day, DC and Marvel can kind of get away with that because I almost feel like the universe itself is a character because you have all these characters you follow. Like, DC isn't just Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman, right? You have all these other characters. Vice versa with Marvel. Like, Marvel isn't just X-Men, Avengers, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man. And I don't, and even with Star Wars itself, that's another example where the franchise itself in the world is a character. Star Wars isn't just Luke, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Leia, Han, all the OT kind of main prequel characters. Star Wars, the world itself is a character, so you could just do a character that's just randomly in the universe. So you can kind of get away doing like a Boba Fett movie or a show, because that's set in the Star Wars universe, but it's not focused on like the Skywalkers. You can get away with that. I don't think you can do that with John Wick, and I think they thought they could, because we had 4 movies and, well, everyone's gonna love it. But it's like, the truth is, I think people only want to see, at least theatrically, only want to see Keanu Reeves and, as John Wick in this universe being the main line. And I think that's just the truth. If you're gonna do this ballerina movie, make it, I know it sounds bad, but the truth is, you would have been better off making this a streaming movie and it still makes some numbers, but you still put a budget to it and it still could get love. And maybe you would have got some good viewership on your streaming service, like, or whatever streaming service it was on. You could have made a deal with Amazon and put it on Amazon, because I think that's really where it could have did better. Is I think trying to make it theatrical just wasn't. People are not interested to see anything but John Wick theatrically, because I feel like, I hate to say it, because I know they're talking about they wanted to do like a Kane spinoff about Donnie Yen's character from John Wick 4. But I'm worried that will not do as good. Well, yeah, it has Donnie Yen, but I think the truth is, you're going to run into the same problem. I think people only want to focus on John Wick as the lead and not really focus on other characters. And I think you would have been better off just focusing, maybe the Donnie Yen thing, you make that a streaming miniseries. Make that a miniseries. You could put that on Netflix, Amazon, even Peacock, because you already had the whole Peacock deal with Continental, so you got to put on Peacock. Make a mini series about Donnie Yen's character. Because I worry, maybe in Asia there's a chance it could do well because Donnie Yen, but I don't know. Does it do well outside of Asia? I don't know. Just because Ballerina didn't do well, and I think the truth is, because I think theatrically people only want Keanu Reeves as the focal point of this franchise, theatrically at least. So I don't know. I'm worried it just doesn't do well. Like, it could be a good movie, I think, on paper, because it probably will just be an R-rated It Man, and that's what I think they'll do. And on paper, I'm cool with that. But I fear that, I don't know if that's going to be enough to bring people and put asses in seats theatrically. I just don't know. Maybe in Asia, because obviously Donnie Yen's pretty big in Asia. But I don't know, outside of Asia, does it do well? And I think if it does well in Asia, I don't know if it does well enough to fucking hold it up. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it won't do well in Asia. I just don't know if it will do well enough to carry that entire movie to popularity in Asia. That's kind of my point, is what I'm saying. So I just feel like that's kind of the point I'm getting at, is I don't know if it does well in Asia, man. I mean, outside of Asia, I don't know if it does well, and if that's gonna be enough. So I think I know it doesn't sound good, and Donnie Yen I do think should be a theatrical actor, but you may have to have no choice but to put this on streaming. And maybe you don't even have to make it a movie, you just repurpose it into a mini series. You get more time with Donnie Yen. If you make it a very much a mini prestige series with a budget, I think it does well. But theatrically, I just don't know. Because I feel like at the end of the day, like I said, I think Keanu Reeves theatrically is the draw for this franchise. It's not the world. This isn't Star Wars. This isn't Marvel. This isn't DC. Where the world itself is a draw that you can kind of get away with doing a bunch of spin-offs and it still do well because the world itself is almost borderline a character. I don't think John Wick's there yet, and I think they overestimated the importance of the world, at least theatrically, with John Wick. I like Ballerina, but that's just the truth. They thought Ballerina was gonna do like crazy money because the world is what makes John Wick. What makes John Wick is Keanu Reeves, at least theatrically. Well, anyway, I feel like I'm rambling now, so I'm interested to see where they go. But like I said, John Wick 5 has to be it. I just feel like if you get to John Wick 6 and on, that's when we're just in. You're just continuing it just to continue it, and it's getting into Friday the 13th territory. I don't think it needs to go that long. At some point, you do need to end it, and I feel like the smart way to do it is just have John Wick 5 be the last one. I've said it. John Wick 4, I'd be content if it was, but I think they've already said they're doing John Wick 5, so just let 5 be it. Let this be the last one, because I feel like you run the risk of becoming a meme, and it just... Even with the cool fight scenes, at that point, I'm just going to watch these movies just for the fight scene and not be like an actual elite franchise. So, let 5 be it. Have a fucking solid ending for the character and the whole world. And maybe you want to do spin-offs, in a couple years. I think people will be fine with it after that. Because at that point, we'll know John Wick as a character is going to be done. So, we'll just be building the world now. Then maybe you can get away with doing spin-offs then. But let John Wick end as a franchise first. Do John Wick 5, wrap that story up, and then if you really want to try to get back doing more spin-offs, there's a chance they may actually now make money, because we'll at least know now, okay, John Wick 5 was it, that character's done, he's not he's not coming back, okay, now we can try to expand the universe a bit more now. So we can still keep that IP going, but we're not focusing on Keanu Reeves anymore, because it'll be known to the world, yeah, this is done. So I think you do that. There's a chance now that maybe you can do. So honestly, if you even want to keep the Kane movie going as a film, do John Wick 5 first. Finish that. Finish John's arc. Let that all be done. And then maybe we can revisit the whole Kane movie thing, and then a bunch of other spin-offs if you really want to do it. Maybe try the Continental series again, but actually do it fucking right this time. Yeah. I think if you do that, let John Wick, maybe like at least a year or two, rest. Let John Wick 5 do its thing. But like maybe a year or two, you let it rest, and then try to get back to doing the spin-off thing. Because I think after John Wick 5, there's a chance it makes money. But anyways, so that's all I gotta really say. I'll try to do some kind of Christmas related video before Christmas. We'll see. If not, Merry Christmas, and I'll talk to you after Christmas for sure. And yeah. It's going to be weird because I already did my end of the year film stuff already, because I already did my best and worst films of the year. If I had to add one, really quick side point. I know I talked a little bit already about Silent Night, Deadly Night, but I kind of want to talk about that more. They added a supernatural element. That is the one element I do not get. What made the original Silent Night, Deadly Night work is it wasn't supernatural. It was just a guy went crazy. They actually... The voice in his head he was hearing was the guy who killed his parents got electrocuted, and he's actually able to hear him because he's basically his soul's fused into him. So he has the soul of the guy who killed his parents. That's the voice in his head telling him to kill. It's so fucking bad. I would, if I'm retroactively, I did 15, I'd probably make it like 16. I think this would be number 16. This was really bad. I hated this movie. So, but anyways, guys, I'll figure out what to do for like the end of the year and all that stuff. And yeah, but other than that, guys, I'll talk to y'all later. I think I like that though. This is a more positive state of, because a lot of these have been kind of more negative. Because unfortunately, a lot of these franchises that I was doing were in bad states. So I just kind of want to tell how we got here. But it's actually nice to have one where I still feel like, even though Ballerina didn't make money, I still largely thought it was a solid movie. It just, unfortunately, just the climate and all that was in. So, and hopefully maybe they do a kick-ass John Wick 5, and I trust they largely will. So, and that story, and then maybe we can get back to the spinoff stuff. So, see where that goes. But other than that, guys, I'm going to talk to y'all later. Peace.